How is trust built between a speaker and an audience? Imagine standing in front of an audience and all of a sudden you feel the energy shift. That's the feeling when the audience starts to trust the speaker. It's a wonderful feeling, and I've felt that so many times through the years. I'm excited to teach you today the different ways you can apply that into your life immediately. So a lot of people might speak to you about how to build trust with an audience, and I'm going to give you some ideas today of what you may not have heard before. However, I do want to tell you about a friend of mine. His name is David Horsager. Now, David Horsager founded the Trust Edge Leadership Institute. Now, David talks about 8 pillars of trust that are built in any relationship of trust. Today, obviously, we're going to focus on between a speaker and an audience, and you should look up David Horsager because he does this so masterfully. But I'm going to give you a couple of others that I think are very helpful. So let's dive in. So trust is the gateway to communication. It enhances your credibility. It gives you the opportunity to let the audience know, hey, I can trust that person. I want to do whatever they tell me to do. And so the very first one we have to consider is authenticity. So when I like to talk about authenticity, or at least be authentic on stage, this creates a feeling of trust with me and the audience, and here's why. Because I actually share about experiences that are happening all around me that I actually go through, and they as an audience are like, oh, that guy is relatable. For example, if I'm at a hotel that's really expensive, I actually will joke about the fact that it's so expensive. So I'll be like, hey, anybody notice how cool it is to be at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton today? I was so excited to get here and I felt so cool. And then I looked at the price of water, and now I'm glad I brought my own, and then they all laugh. That's a great way to create connection, because now I'm building trust through authenticity in what I actually do. In fact, I even share the fact that I say, hey, you know what? I was looking at the price of the menu on the room service and I thought, I'm glad I brought my own sardines and beef jerky. And the audience laughs, and then we build some trust and rapport. Another one I'd like to share within the authenticity realm is my own shortcomings. For example, I might say something like, this morning I woke up, my shirt was wrinkly and I was trying to figure out how to iron it. My hair was everywhere. I had a new zit. And everybody laughs about that. I think humor is so important with our authenticity with an audience, because that's something for me that comes out for myself. How about for you? What's your authentic way of delivering yourself and building the trust and communication with your audience? The other thing that really stands out with authenticity is to ditch the script. I mean, it's not to wing it. I've talked about this in other videos before, but rather speak from your heart. Speak from a place that you really know that you're coming from the depths of somewhere that they can really relate to you. And one of my favorite things I've ever done is sharing about my family, sharing about even a personal injury that I've had. And this creates a really interesting connection of trust with the audience because I'm authentically sharing. In fact, a couple of years ago, I broke my leg. I was on stage with a giant leg immobilizer because I couldn't bend my leg for a while. And I had to laugh about that with the audience. And I would say, has anybody else here ever had an injury like this? And lots of hands went up. I built trust right away by talking about something that makes me transparent. One of the things that I've found is that if you discover your signature moves, the most important part of really presenting how to be somebody that can be trusted as a speaker for an audience. And so when you think about your signature moves, my question would be, how would I impersonate you? What are your signature moves? It's important to know what they are. If you don't know what they are, I want you to go check out this assessment that's amazing. It will actually change your life and the way that you build trust with your audience. Go to icmprocess.com and you can thank me later. The next one after authenticity is transparency. I'm talking absolute openness. And this is very much in line with authenticity, but transparency goes another level. You see, I might even joke about the fact that it was difficult for me to even get into the event itself. So often I've been stopped before I've gone in to be the keynote speaker, even with my name on the billboard outside. And yet the security guard doesn't let me through the doors because I don't have the right lanyard. And so the audience starts laughing when I share about the backstage challenges or some of the other challenges that I have even getting in the venue. This transparency really builds a quick trust and connection with the audience. The third one is empathy. When we think about empathy, where we have something that we've related upon and we've all experienced perhaps. And so whether it was the time I spoke on 9/11, which that was a very challenging day for anybody that remembers 9/11, or I remember I was actually in Los Angeles a couple of days after Kobe Bryant, the Los Angeles Lakers basketball legend, and his daughter and many others passed away in a helicopter crash. This was a horrible thing for everybody in the whole world to realize that these great people were gone. But I was in Los Angeles speaking to a group of people who worked for a credit union, and I could hear them grieving in the halls and in the audience. In fact, before I went up, they did a tribute to him. Now that's a hard thing to have to follow, and yet with the empathy that we can display, it was interesting to be able to honor the great signature moves of Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, as a dad, and at the same time, it was a great way to build trust with an audience that was actually visibly grieving right in front of me. And so there is a way to build through empathy, and that trust is powerful. Another way I like to utilize empathy is to actually do this connection with the audience regarding how they have their career. For example, teachers. I love speaking to teachers because educators are so amazing. And my grandma was a teacher, and she passed away a little bit ago. But my grandma, when I share stories with educators about her, they realize that I can see a little bit more into their lives. And so anytime I have a connection with the audience in some way, whether it's I already use their services and I've been through some of the challenges they've been through, or having that connection with teachers and educators, that's a wonderful thing to share. Another way to build empathy is through direct eye contact. Now, I've shared other videos about this on this channel. One that you might want to look up that's very helpful is titled exactly this: Why is eye contact important in public speaking? And so I like to look at different audience members, and I'll just share a little bit about what I do. I pick somebody right in the front who has a pleasant face and look and is looking at me like they are approving. And then I'll find a second person and then a third person. I'll go in a triangle. It's a very nice way to create eye contact instead of just looking generally at everybody. But this brings forth a feeling of empathy, and it's a wonderful way to connect with everybody. And then, of course, there's expertise. When we think of expertise and great speakers on stage, one of my favorite examples is Steve Jobs. I'm an Apple and Mac user, and so I remember watching his mastery. He created this great trust with every audience whenever he took the stage. Here's how he did it. He came on stage as the full-on expert. We knew he was a genius. We knew he knew his subject. And then he always did something that was so cool. After revealing products and ideas and concepts, he'd always say, "Oh, but wait, there's more." And he would give us even more. It was a fascinating study. You should go check out Steve Jobs' work. The final one we're going to talk about is consistency. Let's talk about consistency across all of our branding. And as a speaker, you have a certain brand that everybody knows you for. It's your signature move. It's your leadership promise. And yet, let's talk about this candidly, if it's all right. I don't want to offend you if you're watching this and concerned about this, but this is something I've had to focus on. For example, I speak on commitment, and that also means that in my commitment, I also have to display that I'm a committed person. And so when I share about my family, I'd better be on stage living what I'm talking about I do off stage. For example, if I'm talking about fitness and I don't look like I live fitness, there's incongruence in that message. And so consistency is one of the most important parts that we've talked about today. Our message, our brand, everything we talk about has to be congruent from off stage to on stage. I call that the promise. What is your promise in all that you do? A few other quick tidbits. Let me just tell you about the power of a pause. I've made other videos on this channel if you want to check it out. It's called How Can You Use Pauses in Public Speaking? That's a powerful one. We've mentioned humor because humor for me is something I like to do quite a bit. So how can you implement pauses and humor? We also have vocal dynamics such as vocal tone, volume, speed, all of those different types of things as a communicator. I've made other videos about that. You can check that out on this channel, such as how can you use tone to enhance communication? And so these are just a couple of the cool ideas that you can have in order to build trust with your audience. I hope it's been helpful, and I appreciate so much you taking the time to look at some of the other videos, but especially if you'll please comment here as to how helpful this was. If you're serious about mastering the art of building trust between yourself and the audience, I'm here to guide you. I'd love for you to go check out icmprocess.com. It's going to change your life. I can't wait for you to take that assessment.